Let's proceed. All right, this is the Williamson County Joint Communications Network Authority meeting for January 22nd. Get some administrative business out of the way here that we're required to read. This meeting is being held pursuant to Executive Order 71 of the Governor of the State of Tennessee. As such, all members of the board must be able to hear me and each other. We will go ahead and take roll call now. We'll start with the City of Brentwood. Kirk Bednar.
Here.
Thank you. Chief Hughes.
Here.
Thank you, sir. Chief Goss.
Here.
All right. City of Franklin, Eric Stuckey.
Here.
Thank you. Chief Faulkner. Chief Faulkner, I saw you a minute ago.
She's here. I saw her say here. I think it may not have got through.
Okay, looks like we're having some bandwidth issues right now for some reason. Chief Johnson?
Here.
Thank you. Sheriff Rhodes? Sheriff Rhodes?
Here.
Thank you, sir. I'm here and I do not see Mary Anderson currently. All right. If you cannot hear other members, please notify me immediately. All votes will be done by roll call. This meeting is available to the public on Public Access TV and is being streamed live on YouTube. Good morning, everybody. First item of business is to get the minutes on the floor from December 4th.
So moved. Sheriff Rhodes.
All right.
Second.
Sheriff Rhodes. Thank you, Sheriff. And Eric, any deletions, corrections to those minutes? All right, none seen. We'll go ahead and go down the roll to approve those minutes. Kirk Bednar.
Aye.
Chief Hughes.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Chief Goss.
Aye.
Eric Stuckey.
Aye.
Chief Faulkner. Chief Johnson.
Aye.
Sheriff Rhodes.
Aye.
And myself as aye. Minutes are approved. I would like to, under unfinished business, we've got the technical working group chairman. If there's no objection, I would like to move that up after Kirk presents the treasurer's report. All right, hearing no objection, we'll go ahead and turn the floor over to Kirk for the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Bill, and hopefully everybody can hear me. You got a updated financial report from Bill that sent out this morning. The one that went out yesterday was, I think, the one from the December meeting. So hopefully you've had a chance to look at it. There really isn't a lot of activity if you have looked at it. From an expenditure side, I don't think we've had anything in the last month or so. We've had additional revenue come in with Nolensville and Fairview making their quarterly payments for their subscription fees. Spring Hill had not yet made that payment as of the end of December. I don't know, Amy, if they've made it, still not yet. So I know there's a lot of change going on in Spring Hill, so maybe if we need to, we might need to reach back out and remind them of that. But the other two, Fairview and Nolensville, again, are paid through the first half of the year. So total revenues year to date are $44,454, and expenditures are only $856. The largest expenditure budget is for the audit, and that should be coming through here shortly. I don't know if Amy or Bill have an update on the status of that audit.
I do now.
If you don't mind, Kirk, I'll interject here. We are still waiting for a notification from Mr. Stuckey. There was a fraud questionnaire that needed to be completed, and we had emailed that to you. And we need that completed before they can complete the audit.
Let me check on that. I thought I did that, but I will check on that for you.
Okay. All right. And once we get that, then I think it's just a matter of finalizing everything, and then it should be completed.
Okay, thank you. The bank balance as of the end of end of December was $167,886. So again, not a lot of activity as we expected on the expenditure side, and the revenues other than Spring Hill are all up to date. So that's my report, unless there are any questions.
All right. Any questions for the treasurer? All right. None seen. Can we get the a report on the floor for a vote to accept it?
William Johnson.
Thank you, Chief.
I'll second that.
All right. Thank you, Eric. All right. We've got a motion and a second to accept the treasurer's report. We'll go ahead and go down the roll. Kirk Bednar,
Aye.
Chief Hughes,
Aye.
Chief Goss,
Aye.
Eric Stuckey,
Aye.
Chief Faulkner.
Aye.
Thank you. Chief Johnson,
Aye.
Sheriff Rhodes,
Aye.
and Bill Jorgensen is an aye. Seems like our bandwidth issues have been fixed because I can see most everybody now and I'm hearing everybody. So great. All right. I would like to move up the unfinished business technical working group. It was the wish of the board for the technical working group, and I asked them at the board's request to talk amongst themselves and find somebody that will lead that group. And the name that came back was Mike Proctor. So I would put out there that put on the floor that we vote on appointing Mike Proctor to lead that technical working group, unless there's somebody else that needs to be thrown out there.
If that's a motion, Bill, this is Kirk. I'll second that if yours was the motion. Or if you need to make a motion, I'll make the motion, whichever way it's.
Okay. All right, Kirk, we got a motion from Kirk. We got a second.
Second, Glenn Johnson.
Thank you, Chief Johnson. All right. And this motion is to, and when I meant throw them out there, that's what we're doing, right? We're throwing them out there to that tech, to run that tech committee and lead it. Very important work, and was led by John Allman for many years, and John's still involved. So we'll go ahead and go down the roll. Kirk Bednar,
Aye.
Chief Hughes,
Aye.
Chief Goss,
Aye.
Eric Stuckey.
One comment, I will say you're going to find somebody who has great technical background and an epic beard. So yes.
Oh. Yeah, I see that. And that's a yes?
Absolutely.
All right. Chief Faulkner,
Aye.
thank you. Chief Johnson,
Aye.
Sheriff Rhodes,
Aye.
and Bill Jorgensen is an aye. Thank you. So we'll just go right into the technical working group report. Congratulations, Mike Proctor. Floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Look forward to us going on to greater and more things this year. We met last month. We didn't have a lot to discuss. We're just trying to catch up. Approved a few new connections or on our level for them onto the board. I guess now would probably be, do you want to let Paul go ahead and give his presentation on our system while we're at the technical committee?
Sure. You ready, Paul?
Sure, be glad to. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see my screen at this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. As most of you all know, I work for Jody Kleinert in the Metro radio system, and every 2 months, the Governance Board of Nashville has what they refer to as their MRAM committee meeting, and I give a performance report for the previous 2 months. I've taken that report that I gave to them yesterday, kind of modified it a little bit to focus on Williamson County's radio system, and I'm going to walk you through some slides to give you some idea of how your system is performing. The system availability for the past 2 months, you had 0 seconds of unplanned downtime or degraded time. So that's obviously excellent. We did have 19 seconds of planned downtime, and this occurred during the quarterly server update. It was planned and scheduled. It happened in the middle of the night, approximately 12:30, and again at 1:30 as we did the quarterly server update. So again, that was very minimal. You just went into site trunking for 2 episodes of about 9 to 10 seconds each. So that's excellent that the system performed like that. Your year totals, you had 61 seconds of planned downtime, and it was all basically the same as that when we do our quarterly server upgrades and patching. We have to switch the system is over, and when we roll those zone controllers, it's normally about a 10-second, 9 to 10 seconds of site trunking as we do that. Again, all these were scheduled and planned, so your availability for your first responders was excellent for the course of the year. In comparison, here's how everybody else looked for this reporting period. Metro Nashville P25 had the same issue, had the same times for the same reasons. So was their system B. Goodlettsville and Mount Juliet had some significant issues, primarily due to the Christmas Day bombing. They lost connectivity to the master site. They still performed in site trunking, and matter of fact, the Mount Juliet commented yesterday that even though they were in site trunking, all their first responders were able to communicate with each other and conduct business as they needed to. So even in a degraded state, the system worked exceptionally well. And this is just the raw data that I always show the Nashville MRAM committee just to show where I'm pulling that data from. This is the total call count that we have for the entire system by calls and the push to talks. So we're running about 2.3 million push to talks each month. That's down about 300 to 400,000 pre-COVID. So you could definitely see the impact of COVID on our volumes. But again, the system's handling everything as we want it to and performing as expected. This is the emergencies by talk group. This is a report that I run every month and look at who's having the most and seeing if there's anything out of line. Most of the higher ones are from the Nashville's jail system, their sheriff's office. There is some Vanderbilt Police Dispatch is one of the higher ones. They have some issues. Franklin's in there, but nothing out of the ordinary, nothing that gives me concern. Here's your use trend. I use this slide as a running year. So this incorporates a full running year. And you can see that one spike here is really when we had that straight line wind damage this spring. You see that you peaked up at about 39% utilization. But for the most part, this green line shows your average use, which tells you have the capacity to handle any major incident that occurs in your community. So I would say and you're seeing the stability of the system. So that's obviously an excellent capacity. In comparison, I show you the other subsystems on the Metro Master. This is the Metro P25. That first spike is the tornadoes that hit Mount Juliet, and then the straight line windstorm that occurred a couple months later. But for the most part, they've been pretty standard, very stable. Metro System B, which is more of a public service system, you can actually see it's very obvious when the schools went virtual. You see that drop in utilization because the Metro public school system is one of the biggest users of the System B. And then basically nothing that is surprising. Mount Juliet, that's their use trend. And Goodlettsville, which doesn't seem like they have a whole lot of excitement sometimes. Theirs is very flat and working good. Busies, I wanted to talk a little bit about system busies because in addition to availability, system busies are another thing that we track to make sure that the systems can handle what you're asking it to do. In the period, this is for the reporting period of November and December. You see over here where it says Site 11, that's Mount Juliet. So there was only 4 busies. Mount Juliet had 4 busies. Nobody else had any. So this is the raw report showing that. But what I did is I wanted to show you your total system busies for the entire year. Williamson County, you had 1 system busy. Metro P25 and System B had 0. Mount Juliet had 30, and Goodlettsville had 0. Your 1 busy, which occurred on May 3rd at 6:26 in the afternoon, was a busy that occurred for literally 1/10 of 1 second, that you had no resources available, and it cleared in 1/10 of a second. So I'd say you're pretty solid there. That's not an impact on your system availability. You're resourced the way you should be. So I think that's a excellent record there. This is mainly Nashville. I didn't get a chance to clear up some of this for Williamson County, but I will do that the next time I come back in 2 months and give you an update. But this just shows what I do for Nashville when I show them the cases that were open, the severity levels. And then I go through what's called the critical cases, and I explain what they were and how they were addressed. And I left this on here because a number of the cases were related to a zone controller at the DSR site that Steve was able to work with everyone and get Hewlett-Packard to come in and make that repair. And it was a kind of an intermittent issue, and it went through November and December, but that issue has been repaired. And at that point, I ask you if you have any questions.
Great report, Paul. Any questions for Paul?
Very encouraging. Hey, Paul, is there anything that you see that is missing or that we should be thinking about going forward for the future? I mean, this is obviously a very positive report, especially as it relates to our direct system usage. What, if anything, should we be thinking about?
Right now, I say you're in a really good situation. I think you're solid. I think you've got some issues working. I think Bill will be discussing some of those with Active Connect and Critical Connect, some of those issues. But as far as your base system, I'm gonna tell you, you look really strong. I don't see any issues from system performance. Now, I cannot speak for coverage areas. I know you still have another site that's still to come online, but I would say right now, system-wise, I cannot make any recommendations that would make financial sense. I'm not sure what you would get from any of that from a system performance perspective. You've got a DSR capability. You've got geo-redundant prime. You have really hit the major pieces of giving you a fault-tolerant system. So I know Alex is probably the sales guy. He could probably sell you a whole lot of other stuff, but I'm going to tell you from the system manager perspective, I can't make any recommendations.
Paul, that's why I ask you, not Alex.
Come on, Eric.
All right. Thank you. Great question. Mike, is there anything else from Tech Committee?
I think that's it, unless we want to discuss the overall regional meeting we had with Steve and Jody and numerous other entities around the area with what in regards to what we're planning to do for redundancy after the AT&T incident.
Sure. If I don't know why we couldn't talk about that now. You want to lead that?
I can start, or Jody can add into this. We had I guess you would call it a regional meeting between Williamson County, Davidson County, Rutherford County on looking at ways to share resources both private and public, where we may be able to utilize some T-Dot fiber and existing fiber we own, or maybe some additional microwave shots to have the ability to share internet and or SIP resources between entities in our own private network. We're going to have further discussions trying to figure out what paths are available and what we can do to utilize this, but we're trying to find a workaround that would enable different entities to subscribe to SIP and internet services so we can share those across our own private network that's not being powered by any outside entity besides governmental agencies. And Jody may want to jump in here and add or clarify some of my terms. That's kind of a brief overview of it, at least.
You're spot on with all that, and congratulations on your appointment to the tech committee chair. I think that's an excellent selection as well. So we use some resources from NES right now, tying both Williamson County and the metro systems together. We have some of those options still available as well, and I know that probably Middle Tennessee Electric and a few of the other users on the system will be able to provide some of those additional paths that we're looking for. We were just talking, matter of fact, to Vanderbilt. They've got some T1 that were affected with the bombing, as well as Goodlettsville and those folks. And so we're looking to upgrade those, maybe even some point-to-point microwave, small microwave shots to give additional layers of redundancy to that as well. So just happy to be partners with Williamson County as well. It's a great partnership, and it's a win-win for both of us, I believe.
Thank you, Jody. I think this committee that we've got going, that we started here in Williamson County, and we joined forces with Metro Nashville. I think we're going to build on that more and bring Rutherford County in, and maybe a few more entities around the area to have a robust system that is not dependent on an outside agency to keep us alive. So I think that's all I have, Bill. Thank you for the appointment, and we look forward to serving you well.
Yeah, the board's looking forward to it also. Thank you for stepping up. I think one thing I mentioned in this meeting is that the possibility exists with the governance model that we have and the framework that's already been built with the Williamson County Joint Communications Network Authority. I hate to say the authority given to the authority, but through the cities and the county, that they could be that point of contact for this working group, or whatever solutions are put in front of us in the future for connecting the three counties and other counties later together, that this is probably the group where all that will come back to. Right. Oh, I think Mike's done, so we'll move on to the operational working group. Deputy Chief Elrod.
Good morning. Not a whole lot to report other than some of the stuff in the new business. I have one systems request from National Park Service, waiting on some approvals from that, and clarify a few of the requests that were made. I think the man that did that, Daniel Kynes, just had a baby, or his wife had a baby, so we've kind of been playing a little bit of phone tag. So hopefully I'll have that by time for next meeting. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Chief. And let me echo what Jody said too. The relationship between the Metro Radio Management Committee and this board, I mentioned yesterday on the MRAM committee, it's very strong. So we've got a great working relationship with Nashville, and thank you, Jody, for joining us today. All right, any questions for Chief Elrod? None seen. We'll move down to new business. I think this is something that we'll probably want to vote on. Been working with Alan McLean and the state who manages Tacken, or is one of the players in Tacken, and then Jody Kleinert. And a request came from Commissioner Long to connect the Sheriff's Office primary dispatch talk group to the state system. What will result in that is the Tennessee Highway Patrol and whoever's allowed to or has authorization will be able to communicate directly with the Williamson County Sheriff's Office and stay on the state system to be able to do that. After talking about this, we think the best solution is to put a gateway at the Fairview Tower site. And I think the state of Tennessee is going to bring a radio and connect to it. And then we will supply a radio and connect to it. And so we'll just take the Sheriff's Office primary and connect it to a state talk group. I don't know the name of that talk group yet, but I think that's something the sheriff, if he would like to speak to this, please do.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah, I think this is critical for us and for THP because we have to be able to talk to them without going through a third party, being dispatch and stuff. And I just give you the incident we had Tuesday morning with the manhunt, having to, if we'd been able, even though we got the guy with a little difficulty, we had to go through our dispatch, through state dispatch to get trickers out there to help us. So, and they're remote a lot and we are too. So we need to be able to have direct communications with them.
Thank you, sir. The only concern that came up about it, and the sheriff is good with this, is that currently the state of Tennessee does not have AES encryption. They will be putting encryption on this talk group though on their end, but it will not be to the level the encryption that we're using. Other than that, I didn't have any concerns with it, and but I think we should vote on this since we're connecting an outside resource to our system. If everybody's okay with that.
I make a motion to approve the connection.
Thank you, Chief Johnson. We got a motion.
Second.
I'll second it, Chief Hughes.
Chief Hughes, second. All right, we'll go down the roll. Kirk Bednar.
Aye.
Chief Hughes.
Aye.
Chief Goss.
Aye.
Eric Stuckey.
Aye.
Chief Faulkner.
Aye.
Chief Johnson.
Aye.
Sheriff Rhodes.
Aye.
And myself, Bill Jorgensen, is an aye also. Thank you very much. We will get to work on that and put it in place. The next item is on the agenda is Middle Tennessee Electric Membership Corporation is wanting access to the Nolensville Tower. They're wanting to put, I think it's 3 antennas on the tower. And in exchange for that, they're going to provide fiber to the tower and high-speed internet. So I think it's a reasonable request. But we have a long-term land lease agreement the Williamson County government does with the landowner there. So this is something the county attorney is going to have to work on, and it requires the landowner to also give approval. The only people allowed on the tower, it can't be for commercial gain. So it's not like we're putting a cell carrier up there or anything like that. And we actually have Atmos Energy already on the site. They were on our previous tower before we built the new one. So I just bring this up as information right now, and I'll bring back I don't think this requires a vote. If it does, we can do it in February, but at this point in time, it was information only. Any questions on that? We will require them to do a load study and provide all that information just so we have it all documented.
So Bill, would an agreement then come back to us? Is that what you're thinking in February, or we'll have that information then can make a final decision? Yeah,
I think the agreement may be with the county. We can make it with the board and the county. We could do something like that if whatever the board would like to do, or whatever our legal counsel suggests is the proper thing to do. Yeah, I'll bring it back in February.
Yeah, I just want to be reassured that we're not in any way harming the overall system, that in no way does this create any problems for us.
Sure, understood. And I don't know why we couldn't do a county board. We'll let the attorney figure that out, but we'll bring it back.
And Bill did bring this to the tech committee also, and we discussed it also with Steve Palmer. So we've kind of looked at it also and talked with Steve about this to make sure Steve didn't see any issues.
Any other questions about that? We'll just bring it back in February. All right. Number 3 on here is Smart Connect on the agenda. So working with Alex Sherman and Jody Kleiner, I had a conversation with him this week. Smart Connect, and the sheriff had a question about coverage inside some specific schools, radio coverage. Smart Connect, bottom line, and the easiest way to talk about this probably is it allows your radio to use Wi-Fi to talk on the radio system. This is different than Wave on Cloud, which we're going to talk about in just a second. But any APX radio, from what I understand, can be flashed. The flash is free, but there is a subscription to this, as you would imagine. But any APX radio can be flashed. And I was going to bring this back to the tech committee too to talk about. And then you need a SSID on Wi-Fi, which we would probably put in a common one across schools. Government buildings between the city of Franklin and Brentwood have an SSID where the radios could connect, where if they see the signal from the radio system degrade to a certain point, it'll automatically connect to the Wi-Fi in the building to provide coverage. So this may be a solution for some of these schools the sheriff chatted about, where there's in parts of the schools or commercial buildings or anywhere, it may be a replacement for BDAs. Now, we need to talk about the pros and cons, and the tech committee can have that conversation. There are pros and cons to not having and requiring BDAs in buildings and using Wi-Fi instead, because it is dependent on the cloud to stay functioning for this to work. So Williamson County government recently, as of today, executed a contract with Motorola for Smart Connect, I think for 25 licenses. So we're going to be, no, maybe I'm thinking of Wave on Cloud. I'm sorry, disregard that. We are still working on Smart Connect. The total cost to add Smart Connect is $41,000. And we're still working through those details, and that's probably something we'll bring back to the board. That is something that can be used system-wide. It involves some hardware, and then also a subscription of $96 per radio per year. So right now, the technology credit, which may be an option for the board, we're at $172,800 in our technology credit. But we'll bring this back in February once we flush out all the details. So this would also be available for Nashville users and Williamson County, because it would connect to our cores at 2 locations. I think I got all that right. I see Mike nodding his head.
You nailed it.
Are there any questions about Smart Connect?
I don't have a question, but I just want to interject a little bit of information. When you said all radios, they have to be Wi-Fi capable radios. So the older 6500 or 6000s are not capable of doing that. It has to be a BN model or for any of those. 8000s across the board had Wi-Fi from the get-go, so they any of them should be good for that. But the 6000s have to be the newer ones.
Yeah, I think that mainly affects some older radios that Franklin Fire owns that we use as an admin style radio and not in the fire service side of it. And fire's aware of those radios, so I'm pretty sure that's the only ones that have the AN models that do not have Wi-Fi.
Yeah, there's a couple of them that EMA had don't have it as well, but by and large, the vast majority of the radios that you have in your system are Wi-Fi capable.
All right. Great comment. Any other questions about Smart Connect or comments?
Bill, this is Kurt, just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
41,000, you mentioned that would be a one-time upfront cost, and then would be the annual per radio subscriptions that we would all each pay based upon the number of radios we have, I assume.
Yeah, and you don't have to do every radio, so that 41,000 is one time upfront. It provides some hardware licensing and 2 computers at both Nashville and Williamson County. Very similar to Critical Connect. They're at both locations. And then there's a $96 per year per radio. So if you had some radios that you didn't want to have this feature, you wouldn't have to have it on it. Any other questions? We'll bring it back in February. I think this would be something the board would vote up or down. All right, Wave on Cloud. We, as we know, and Jody's on here. I think he's still on here. Yeah, he is. Metro put in Critical Connect, which allows an app to be on your smartphone. It's called Wave on Cloud. We did just execute a contract this morning with Motorola, I think for 25 licenses for Wave on Cloud for some of our administrative staff to start using. There has been a request from the fire service, specifically the volunteer fire service, and to be able to access talk groups and hear calls on smartphones, which this will allow that to happen. I've been working with Alex Sherman on the best way to handle that as far as an individual. So we will be receiving those licenses, I imagine, in the next few weeks. And I think Chief Elrod has already started to play with that. And I don't know what your experience has been on that so far. If you want to comment on that.
Steve Palmer helped the sheriff and I earlier this week to get the app installed and get the talk groups moved over. So far, we've tested it some here at the office and at home and at other places. We really like it. You know, it's a nice addition to have if you're out at. One example I'd like to use is, you know, you're out having dinner with the family one evening and you get a text of a pursuit or something going on in the county. Normally, I don't carry a radio with me everywhere I go. I can open that app up and have access to our primary talk groups and you know, be able to handle traffic if I need to or step in. So same with the sheriff. So something we're looking at for our some of our administrative staff and possibly for some of our narcotics officers that are sometimes, you know, doing undercover stuff. They can still have their phone and be able to talk. So that's about all I've got.
Thank you, Chief. And you can also do, so there's two portions of this Wave on Cloud. You can just have Wave on Cloud and create your own talk groups on the app that do not access the radio system. And that is, I think they're calling it broadband. And of course, there's a subscriber fee for this. And it is $84 a year for the broadband. And then for broadband plus LMR push to talk is $144 a year per subscriber unit. All right.
Hey, Bill,
Yes, sir.
we in Brentwood recently purchased 4 pagers for that very reason. We didn't obviously know this technology existed, and our admin staff do not carry our 6000s with us wherever we go. And we ordered pagers. In fact, Butch has them right now doing the programming for us. This seems like it would be another good alternative for us admin folks. And like Elrod said, when you're out to dinner or whatever, we're not carrying the radio strap over our shoulder. So this is something that we could all subscribe to.
Yeah, I think what would happen was the city of Brentwood would execute a license agreement with Motorola. And then as you add people, you pull people on and off of that, you would manage that individually. Each entity would have a separate agreement, I think is the way to go on that.
And Brian, I'll be happy to send an example of what Bill and I executed this morning so that we can get that process started for you too.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to take a look at that. Thank you.
Yep, of course.
And just to make sure, and they brought this up in the MRAM meeting yesterday, just understand this is not a replacement for the radio, because it does because it does depend on the internet to function, right? Where the radio does not. Jody, did you have a comment?
Yeah, we do have a limited number of resources as far as connectivity to other systems, as well as back into talk groups in our own system. So we have to be kind of cognizant when we manage those connections. The broadband to broadband connections are pretty much it, as far as those, although we are limited to 50 talk paths. So considering it's a 50 channel trunk system when it comes to a lot of those type conversations, but we could busy the system out just like we could the radio system. So we have to kind of manage how many connections we've got there. So, but right now, everything that everybody's asking for, we have room to do that.
Thank you, Jody. Would that be, let me ask a question to you, Jody. Would that be similar, if there's 50 talk paths, it's similar to our radio system with 13 or 14 talk paths today in Williamson County? Is it used the same way?
Yes.
Okay.
And Alex might want to jump in here and add a little bit, or Steve even. But I think we're on track.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be 50. It's essentially 50 talk paths on Critical Connect, and this is a combination of both broadband to broadband conversations and broadband to LMR. So it's just a total of the simultaneous conversations going on, and currently that limit is 50 for us.
Which is the maximum on Critical Connect. We bought a max system, so.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah, but if you go back and look at the information that Paul had before about what the activity was, I think it's pretty safe to say that we're not even close to 50 simultaneous calls happening all at once.
Yeah.
So we should be in great shape with that.
Yeah, we've got plenty of capacity for everything that we're looking at right now.
And maybe at Jody's urging, maybe Paul can provide a report on Critical Connect once it gets going. Well, I guess it is going, but
yeah. Well, we're sitting with probably 30 users on it right now between Williamson County and Metro.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions about Wave on Cloud?
I don't have a question, maybe a comment for us to
Sure.
help us is, I think we can connect to the reporting system that Paul is getting these reports from, but we do not own any licensing for it currently. I'm not sure if the servers are in the right spot that we can connect to or not, that we may want to look at getting some licensing so we can do individual reports, maybe breaking out by Franklin or the police department or fire department or what Fairview's capacity or what they're using maybe down the road, or look at buying some licensing so we can do some detailed reporting also.
Okay.
I think we may run into the same issue that we did with ComShop 360 with its getting access to it on Metro's network. Sorry, Paul, to interrupt.
That's it's a little bit different because it sits where the Genesis sits. But more importantly, Jody's actually just started the process for a full upgrade of the Genesis product. And so what I'll do is I'll keep Mike in the loop. And if there's some way that we can do that, because there's a whole lot of new functionality and connectivity capabilities in the new package that I'll make sure he's aware of, and that might be something he could tie on with a couple licenses to access that. So we just started that project, haven't even had the kickoff meeting, but Mike, I'll keep you informed on that.
And we'll bore a hole wherever we need to make sure you've got access.
Thank you, Jody. Paul. All right. Number 5, Fairview Fire Department Talk Group Access. I wanted to have a quick discussion about this. They are already a subscriber on the system. And I can't recall we've had an existing subscriber come back, and maybe we have over the last 4 years or so, requesting a talk group access. I'm not sure the board needs to even vote on this. They've requested the sheriff's department primary dispatch channel. The sheriff has approved it in a form of a letter. It's gone through the committee. It may just be information. I'm not sure the board needs to vote on it. Any comments from the board on that? All right, then we can make it known for information only, and then move on. I don't want to slow down the process. The next one, the Franklin Special School District, they do not have a subscriber agreement. So if Chief Elrod, if you want to talk about the request, and then I think we'll need to vote on this one. And this brings up another discussion. The Williamson County school system doesn't have a subscriber agreement either. And we probably need to have, I know we need to have subscriber agreements in place with both those entities for sure. But Chief Elrod?
Okay, so Shelby Glass made a request a while back for access onto the system. Some of y'all were involved in the approval process of that. Both the Franklin Police Department, the Sheriff's Office, they were asking for all of the Franklin Special School District channels, or she was in her particular case, as well as Williamson County Schools, EMA, and I think there was some fire. I'm trying to find all the information.
I think Franklin Fire.
I wasn't prepared for that, Bill. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
You took me this morning. But anyway, all those approvals came through. I don't think there was any issues whatsoever during that process. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. So I think what we need to do is, and I don't have a subscriber agreement prepared, but we would just insert Franklin Special School District, get Dr. Snowden to sign that. But we need to vote on this to allow the Franklin Special School District to use the system.
Motion to allow them to use it.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second on the floor. Then there's probably some discussion about fees or anything like that. We probably need to clear the air on that too.
I have a question.
Yes, Chief Faulkner. Oh, you got muted. I'm sorry. You're still muted. There you
How
go.
about that?
There you go.
Okay. This is to allow the school system to have access to the police and fire channels, or their separate channels?
This is to allow them to have access to some talk groups that they requested within the Franklin Police Department and the Franklin Fire Department. Chief Elrod, do you have that pulled up in front of you for specifics?
I've got some of it pulled up. Chief, I believe you and I had some email conversations back and forth. And on the Franklin dispatch side, that request for Franklin PD's primary dispatch was denied. So I don't think that'll be an issue with the police department. We're still trying to pull some stuff up here. Give me just 1 second, Bill.
The fire department did approve the dispatch and our talk groups to be able to communicate with our constituents in the Franklin Special School District.
Yeah, the form that I saw, they asked for quite a bit, and they didn't indicate how many people would be accessing that, or who would be accessing. If it was, a single source or a lot of people. And that was my concern. Our frequency stays busy all day, and to add a lot of extra people chatting, it's a little bit problematic. And then some discussions are should be kept private. Victims of crime and so on, locations, particularly where children are involved. And so I just didn't know how many people were going to be listening.
Yeah, I think what we can do from here is Mark's got all the who approved what, who denied what, is we go ahead and get a subscriber agreement in place. And then if there's further discussions later with, between FSSD and Chief Faulkner, and then things can be changed later on.
So I'm not sure what they did ask for, but one thing about this is, in our programming of the radios, the zones 10 and up, where we put everyone the same, the Franklin Special School District is already in every radio. So I'm not sure what they're requesting and maybe why they may want some of these other channels. And that's up to the chiefs to decide if they want them to have access.
Right. And it was just their safety director, Selby, was wanting access in case something happened at one of the Franklin Special School Districts. One of the other talk groups that were approved, I think, was WCSO SRO 1. And that was the only one from the sheriff's office, I believe.
Bill, I've got it pulled up. There were 3 requests to the sheriff's office. 2 were denied, 1 was approved. 2 of the ones that were disapproved were our primary and our secondary SRO channel, which is used in-house. They requested Franklin PD's main dispatch channel, which the chief has already discussed this morning. That was disapproved, and I understand why. All of the Williamson County school talk groups, all the admin channels that were originally put into the system, that was approved by Williamson County Schools. Franklin Fire Chief King, I think, let's see, Glenn. One of them approved it. I think I've got Andy King's signature here. They were asking for
TAC channels.
access on locution and then tax 1 through 5. That was approved. And then emergency management asking for tax 1 through 30 for mutual aid. That was approved by Todd Horton. That was the gist of that.
Great. So we got a motion and a second on the floor. Any other discussion?
Just real quick, does that confirm though that it's mainly Selby that we're talking about, or the public safety director within the schools, or who else is on the system to get it? I think Chief Faulkner's question.
I don't think they have any other radios other than Selby.
The information I have, it was for 1 radio for Shelby to be able to be on the system in case of emergency to monitor whatever she's monitoring.
Yeah, on the form, it says how many radios require access. They left all of that blank. Portables, mobiles, base stations, consoles. She left it all blank except for her name and all of that. And they asked for our main dispatch frequency. And it just concerned me because there's a lot of discussion by the detectives and, because it's just right now, it's just police. And so I had a little.
As I understand it, that's been denied and they understand that. So yes. The request has been modified, right? To not include that. And it's 1 correct. Radio that goes to Selby. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay.
And we denied the same request as the Chief Faulkner did, Sheriff's Office, for our primary dispatch.
Yeah, so all that's worked out, and there can be further discussion later on it. And Mr. Bednar, I see you might have a question.
No, I was just getting ready to vote if you were going to call on me.
Yeah, we got a motion and a second on the floor if we're ready to vote. All right, Kirk Bednar.
Aye.
Chief Hughes.
Aye.
Chief Goss.
Aye.
Derek Stuckey.
Aye.
Chief Faulkner.
Aye.
Chief Johnson.
Aye.
Sheriff Rhodes.
Aye.
Bill Jorgensen is an aye. Thank you. We will execute a subscriber agreement with them. We also need to execute a subscriber agreement with Williamson County Schools. If I could get a motion on the floor for that so we have that legal document in place.
Sheriff Rhodes, so much.
Thank you, Sheriff. I guess
Second.
Who was the second?
Chief Goss.
Thank you, Chief Goss. We got a motion and a second on the floor to have a subscriber agreement with Williamson County Schools. Currently, they have school buses on the system, and not even all of them. We've got a gateway set up for them right now, and that's it. That's on there right now. Any discussion?
Bill, is that going to affect subscriber fees for them?
That's a great question. So, and I brought that up a second ago. Right now, we hadn't planned on. hadn't planned, but this is a board decision, not my decision. Hadn't planned on charging the school system, but they are a separate entity and we can have that discussion.
Yeah, I guess my question would be is if other cities are having to pay, I mean, I don't, if we're going to do that, I think we need to have a discussion about what differentiates why the school as a separate legal entity would be any different than the city of Fairview or Spring Hill or anybody else who also uses the system, unless there's some distinction between how they're using it or what they're using versus the others. I don't know.
I wonder if we should, I don't see legal counsel on here. I wonder if we should hold on the subscriber agreement then until we have that worked out, because the subscriber agreement is either no fee or there is a fee.
Do we have any existing approved subscriber agreements that are no fee, or are all of them fee based?
Yes. Oh no, there's some that are no fee. The volunteer fire service is no fee. Anything for interoperability purposes is no fee, and we still have subscriber agreements.
So when you say for interoperability, how is that different than? Again, I'm
Yeah.
know the deals here. I'm just trying to think.
No, that's a great question. So primarily what we've looked at and the trigger has been they didn't have their own talk groups.
Right.
They just needed something to be able to communicate.
Yeah, as opposed to their internal use of it for their own operational purposes.
Right. That is correct. And I would say both FSSD in the future and Williamson County Schools currently do have their own talk groups.
I think that's where the major difference is that should be considered.
Okay. So, I mean, if we want to table this until the next meeting and we can get legal counsel involved in this and see where we're at and bring it back in. I mean, they're on the system now. I just wanted to clean some things up and make sure that we're doing it properly.
I think that's best. So again, I think we are, I don't want to rush into something that might set a precedent we're not all comfortable with setting going forward.
Okay. And I will hold off on the FSSD until we have clarity to this, if that's okay with the board. Okay. All right. Last item is meeting time. So since March or April, the Williamson County Mayor has had department head meetings at 0900 every Friday. And I've been missing those meetings. And so I would just throw out there that to consider maybe moving the meeting, the Joint Communications Network Authority meeting, just temporarily to 9:30 on the fourth Friday. Same day, just move it to 9:30. I don't know if that's a conflict with anybody. I don't see anything conflicting. Okay. All right, so the next meeting, without hearing any objection, will be February 26th at 9:30 a.m. And then we can go back to 9 as soon as probably before the end of the year, I imagine. All right, anything else for the good? I don't see anything. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you very much. Y'all have a great weekend.